Welcome to Sports Tonight Live. We're going to be reliving some of the action from today. The big news, obviously, that Southampton have beaten Newcastle by 4-0, and Chelsea remain unbeaten after beating Swansea and coming from behind and winning 4-2. Costa with a hat-trick. To my left, I've got Rebecca Adams. Good evening, Rebecca.
Good evening, Pete.
Who is a Swansea fan and wiped a tear from your eyes, have you?
Yeah, not such a great day for us today, but expected nonetheless.
I know, I was hoping that Swansea could hang on. They were 1-0 up for a while. And Blasco, hot-footed from watching the Arsenal-Man City game.
Yeah, good game of football. I'm sure there'll be some passionate Arsenal supporters and maybe even Man City supporters who comment on what's happened today.
Absolutely. And it's a shortened programme tonight. We're here for an hour, so the number will be coming up on the screen quite soon, if we can get that. But we have got some fans already that have phoned us in, and we're delighted to say we're joined by Richard Smith, and let's get to the heart of the big story of the day. Newcastle United losing by 4-0. Good evening, Richard.
Evening, how are you?
I'm fine, and we just see your quote on Twitter. Just obviously be aware this is before 9 o'clock, but you can say what you want, but just be careful with the language. You must be extremely disappointed the result today, first of all.
Obviously disappointed, but at the same time, looking on the bright side of life, it hopefully moves us a step closer to getting rid of this absolute choke of a management and coaching team that we've got in place. Just thought I'd start off by reeling off a few stats, just because I know Newcastle fans are quite often targeted by the media for having too high an expectation of their team and of their management. So let's just put in the perspective of looking at Alan Pardew's record. So since the start of this calendar year, Pardew has achieved 5 wins from 23 games. In 9 of those fixtures, Newcastle have conceded 3 or more goals. This is a bit more of a damning statement, but since 1993, up until Alan Pardew took over, Newcastle lost by 3 or more goals 35 times. Alan Pardew has achieved that in 21 games, which it just kind of says a lot about his resilient team. Looking at this fixture from today, in this fixture, the last 2 fixtures against Southampton away, we've conceded 8 goals without scoring 1. And probably the most damning statement of it all, and stat of today, is that the Newcastle fans had a 700-mile trip, and Alan Pardew comes out after the game and points the finger at the anti-manager chance at not really helping him or his team out. The time has come for Alan Pardew to either be sacked or to do the good thing and step down, and enough's enough, basically.
Richard, there's obviously a couple of points that I want to play devil's advocate here. One, is it fair to say he's not been really given the support financially to bring in the players that he wants? And secondly, what are Newcastle United's expectations for the season? I mean, what are you expecting?
Okay, so to answer your first question there, to say that Newcastle, Alan Pardew hasn't been backed financially, I'm truly of the opinion that Newcastle's main problem is Mike Ashley and the overall ambition that he has for the club. But Newcastle spent around £35 million this summer, and albeit that was reinvestment on sales of players that we made. But Alan Pardew came out, very much forefront in the media and said that he was very happy at how he'd been backed financially. He had the players to really take Newcastle forward and make us an exciting attacking presence that, in his opinion, would be capable of challenging for the top 4. And bearing in mind that's Alan Pardew's opinion. So I think if we look at it from that standpoint, Alan Pardew has essentially admitted that he has had the financial backing to turn things around. So to answer your second question on what Newcastle's expectations are, it's an interesting question. Newcastle fans' expectations are a lot more realistic than what we are often credited for. What we certainly don't expect is to suffer, time after time, regular 3-4-0 defeats. Getting embarrassed by teams, not basically going backwards. Players that are regressing under this coaching regime. That's it. Newcastle fans just want to have a bit of enjoyment in supporting their team.
Richard, what do you think of the points made in Pardew's press conference? I'll quote some of the things. Early goals knocked us on the back foot. We played okay at the start, and there's been not long enough to prepare because of the European breaks, the international games, I should say.
Well, I say that. I think in our starting lineup we had 4 players or 4 or 5 players. Now, Southampton probably had a similar number. It's absolute garbage. It's just rubbish. Newcastle fans don't buy it. 2 weeks ago, we conceded 3 goals at home against Crystal Palace. This isn't about an international break. This is about sheer incompetence. Alan Pardew is giving Alan Pardew credit. He's taken us as far as he possibly can, but at the minute we're going backwards. So I don't buy any of these excuses anymore. It's time for him to just shut up with the absolute, claptrap that he comes out with on a weekly basis, and just actually accept that he's not good enough anymore for the job.
OK, a couple of questions here, Blasco.
Yeah, Richard, I can definitely sense your fury on the phone, and it's good that you've managed to refrain from swearing, but I know you probably want to. But I'm looking at the league table. You're bottom of the league after 4 games. You've conceded the most amount of goals, or you're on a -6 at the moment with only 2 points. Most people before the season probably wouldn't have put you in a relegation battle, but do you think if Pardew stays, well, at least until Christmas time, you will be fighting to stay in the Premier League?
It's a good question. I think all you need to do is actually look at not just this season, but look at the past 2 seasons, which I think a lot of people actually play ignorance to. A lot of people in the media, and Collymore come out and kind of have a go at Newcastle fans for having this kind of over-expectation. It's not just about the past 4 games. It's about the past 2 seasons of woefulness in the league. As you kind of rightly said, it's not just the lack of scoring goals. It's probably the more worrying thing is the number of goals that we ship. Right now, we've got Hull City next weekend. At the minute, if we play like we did today, we will get beaten by Hull City. Newcastle need to change their management, not just their manager, but their whole coaching team before it's too late. Before this season is just I say a waste of time, but it could be a disaster as it currently looks like.
Richard, before you go, let's put yourself in dream world for a moment. Alan Pardew leaves. Who would you like in charge of the football club?
It's a tough. I think if you've got to answer this question with a sense of being realistic, I think maybe being a bit too over-optimistic. Someone like Frank de Boer from Ajax, maybe that has been a bit too over-optimistic. But maybe an up-and-coming manager who wants to get himself that first step in the Premier League. If he was out the question, then I think David Moyes, I'd be happy to give Moyes a go, because I think hopefully he could do something similar to what he did at Everton when he took over, albeit it took him a bit of time. But I think right now it just looks like there's a lot of managers out there, albeit they may not have the exciting CV or credentials, but certainly a vast improvement or just a simple change from the absolute atrocity that we've got now.
And very quickly, before we go to a break, Richard, what's the fans going to be like with Alan Pardew next week before the home game if he's still in the job?
I dread to think. I mean, against Cardiff, the last home game of last season, I wasn't at that game, but from the even you weren't there, it was a very toxic environment, and I think potentially if he's still there next week, it could be twice as bad as that. I can't even bear to imagine what it would be like. I mean, today Alan Pardew didn't get off his bench to the touchline once. I think that says a lot about him. He's scared. He's basically admitted that he cannot manage or coach the team anymore. It's a very self-damning statement by Pardew.
OK, thank you very much indeed, Richard, for that reaction. I'm sure plenty of Newcastle United fans would listen to that and agreed wholeheartedly with what you said. Thanks very much indeed.
Cheers, thank you.
Thank you.